just remember the ones that are under the ground. They give everything for you.
It was a mistake not to stay longer.
It brings memories back, it does, you know, it's the trouble.
I apologise for that.
A moment of history 80 years in the making. A political blunder that could shape the next 4 weeks of this election. Princes, presidents and prime ministers gathered to commemorate 8 decades since the D-Day landings yesterday. But one man was noticeable by his absence. Earlier in the day, Rishi Sunak paid his respects and represented his nation. By afternoon, though, the German Chancellor and presidents of France and the United States, and standing with them not Mr Sunak, but the Prime Minister of yesteryear, Lord Cameron. The Foreign Secretary standing in for Mr Sunak, who left the spot where so many sacrificed so much during World War II to take part in a media interview.
On reflection, that was a mistake, and I apologise. I think it's important, though, given the enormity of the sacrifice made, that we don't politicise this. The focus should rightly be on the veterans who gave so much. I had the honour and privilege of speaking to many of them and their families, hearing their stories, expressing my gratitude personally to them.
An intervention by fate this morning, Veterans Way in Stonehouse, Gloucestershire, a pre-booked location for one of today's Conservative campaign visits to a school. For 5 minutes, Rishi Sunak was asked about his decision yesterday. For 5 minutes, the same answer was repeated and blamed.
The itinerary for this set of events was set weeks ago, before the start of the general election campaign.
This was an error of judgment that may well follow him and the Conservatives as a whole for the rest of this election.
What's your favourite ice cream flavour?
Pink.
Pink?
Yeah.
Is that strawberry? Yeah.
Privately in the party, outrage and despair. Publicly, the defence, well, one that recognises the fault.
Undoubtedly, veterans will feel pretty raw over this, and I don't dispute that, and I totally understand. And personally, it's a bit crushing, yes, but it is what it is, and it's happened. And he's apologised, and he's made a mistake, and it is not reflective of his wider work on veterans.
For some veterans, though, the events of the last day are just unfathomable.
He should have stayed. I do honestly think that was very disrespectful of him. What he says and what he does are two different things. Talking about bringing back national service, you can't be pro-armed forces and then on a big commemoration like that, just walk out early.
In Aldershot, known as the home of the British Army, an almost unified view among most voters.
It's pretty poor, really. Disrespectful.
It's bad form, isn't it?
I think that's quite disgusting, to be honest.
Obviously something else came up and he had to leave. It's justifiable on my part. All right, he did his bit.
One man who did not leave early, the man who wants the current Prime Minister's job.
I actually found yesterday very emotional. Just before the first ceremony, I just went down towards the beach and contemplated what it must have been like for a 17 or 18-year-old young man or woman to run up that beach under gunfire.
Not similar age to your son.
Well, exactly my thought. My boy will be 16 this year, and these were 17, 18-year-olds. I found that really humbling, actually. I was very pleased to say thank you. The Prime Minister will have to answer for his choices. For me, there was only one choice, which was to be there paying my respects and my tribute to them, and of course their colleagues who didn't return.
Political leaders from other parties have called Rishi Sunak's actions indefensible and a dereliction of duty. The problem for the Prime Minister, it's a view shared by many in his own party too. It is hard to overestimate the depths of despair within the Conservative Party this evening. The level of anger is only matched by the genuine hurt that some feel that the Prime Minister could commit an act of self-sabotage like this. Some tell me it's already been brought up on the doorstep. And the point they make is that moments of real cut-through like that don't happen very often. You've got to think back to 2010 when Gordon Brown was caught on a microphone calling a woman bigoted. But the point they make is that when that happened, it was a mistake that happened in the moment. This, what has unfolded, was signed off and premeditated by the Prime Minister. That, they say, is unforgivable.
Paul, what's going on with Labour's manifesto?
Yeah, well, effectively, that's been signed off tonight. I understand that the only people who really didn't give the sign off was the union unite. They said they got some concessions on the NHS and steel, but they couldn't find a compromise on workers' rights and protections for oil and gas. Now, ordinarily, divisions between Labour and unions going into election would be a hot topic. Going into tonight's debate, that would be seized upon. However, given everything that's happened in the last 24 hours, that is going to pale into insignificance.
Thanks, Paul.